All right, so Brad, I'm going to start off with a curveball. You ready?
Yeah,
If you're
let's
if you're
go.
going to play in the big leagues, you got to hit the curve. That's what they tell me.
Okay. All right.
What are some what are some businesses or some brands that you follow or you respect because of how they do business or how they represent themselves?
Um, so recent interaction. So this comes to mind. Nordstrom
Okay.
is one. Their customer service is very, very good. Um, thought I purchased at Nordstrom. Actually purchased at Neiman Marcus. Nordstrom was going to take this thing back that had been used for a while, um, and ship us a new one, only to find out I didn't purchase it there. Go to Neiman Marcus, which Neiman Marcus is really probably known more as a more luxury brand. Um, and their response was, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. You just have to buy another one. So it's very, you know, that was very interesting for sure. Um, I'm drawn to brands. Look, Chick-fil-A, man. I mean,
Hmm.
just Chick-fil-A is not about their chicken. You know what I mean? I've had way better chicken, and some people may not like that, but it's the
It's
experience,
dangerous
right?
territory there, man.
I hear you, but it's true. Um,
Well, and they
anyway,
they employ young people, the same types of young people that other businesses employ, except for the culture and how they train them and how you get treated at
train,
that place is
training,
totally
training, man.
different.
It's all in training. It's all in training, because it's like, oh, does Chick-fil-A somehow handpick the chosen children?
No.
you know, no, they don't. They just do a great job of training them and instilling their values in them, and and making sure that they're doing them. Obviously, so there's this thing nowadays where, hey, people kind of talk about the younger generations just not being good employees and things like that, and I'm like, well, you can go to Chick-fil-A and debunk that.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, what's the difference? Well, the difference is they put time and invest time into them,
Mm-hmm.
into obviously training them, but not only training them, but instilling in them their values.
Yes.
Uh, and
They have a
it's
high
obvious,
standard and
right?
there's accountability towards that standard. And yeah.
Yeah, so those two jump off, but I mean, there's a lot of brands and things that I'm not into. It's funny because I just had this conversation today with somebody. I'm not into the social media heavy brands at all. The companies that and I won't name these, but the ones that, and I could, but that basically they're spending all of their money on advertising and none of their money on actually giving you any type of decent service. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have an issue, you're screwed. So I'm now of the mindset that I will not buy anything from any company that is heavy social media.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's definitely a hot take.
Yep.
Well, it speaks to your value. And the reason why I'm asking this question is because I wanted to talk to you today about just a culture of ownership, a culture of like doing whatever it takes to serve people. And even if that means, you got to take back a article of clothing that wasn't yours. I mean, whatever I think in that story, the Nordstrom story is they valued you as a customer more than they valued that article of clothing because what they
Yeah.
understand is that if they treat you well, over time, they're going to get a lot more money from you as a loyal customer. They'd rather take a loss on that garment even if it didn't belong to, even if it wasn't even theirs to
Well,
own.
here's the thing, man. It was cologne, right? It was
Okay.
it was pretty expensive cologne, and all of a sudden the sprayer stops working. Well, I try to change the spray top out with another one.
Hmm.
I take it in because that didn't work. I take it in and they find out that it's actually inside the bottle. So the mechanism up inside, which nobody can get to, right? Not my fault.
Right.
Still had three-quarters of the bottle left. They weren't willing to do anything about it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was dumbfounded, honestly. Like I couldn't believe it. I ended up getting a manager involved and got what I felt like I deserved. But
Does that change emotionally change how you view those businesses and where you will go and how you'll,
are you kidding me?
yeah.
Yeah, you know the answer to that.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
guess you're asking for
as a
the.
business owner yourself, I mean, what is this idea of like doing whatever it takes? What does that mean to you as a company owner?
I see so much value in being willing to lose. You
Mm,
know, um, whether it's um, whether it's a debate, whether you're looking at trying to find a solution for something and you feel like you're right, you know, you got to be willing to lose, and whether it's monetary.
mhm,
You did everything on your end the right way. Your team, you know, it was a home run. When you look at, once we look at what we do, right? Once we receive the claim to all the way through, and I go back and look at every note, and I say, you know what? We couldn't have done anything differently. Team, great job. Here's what I'm dealing with. But and ultimately, even though I know all of those things, man, I still lose sometimes.
mhm,
And and you know what? It's like you just got to be able to see the forest through the trees. I I don't even get bummed out. You know what I'm saying? I've just been I'm in my mid 40s. It's not the first time I've ever seen this happen.
right,
And then like I always have been of the mindset like it takes money to make money, and been in sales a long time and all that stuff. But ultimately, um, I don't get bummed out about it. It's like, yeah, briefly, I'm like, I should not have to take this hit, right?
right,
For sure,
right,
right? Out of principle, I
right,
shouldn't have to take this hit. But you live on principle, that'll cost you,
right.
and I know that firsthand, unfortunately. But you just, you take the bad with the great, right?
Yeah,
Hey, our clients really really appreciate what we do. They send us a lot of business. Obviously, it's repeat business because they keep sending us business, and like, why would I even think of you know arguing over the sake of principle when that may potentially put this thought in the back of their head, like, Brad and his team they're not really flexible. They're not really willing to kind of eat crow when we need them to, or whatever. And so it just is what it is, man.
yeah,
And so many business owners like count pennies, and just aren't willing to lose. And my gosh, it's so short-sighted. It baffles me. It baffles me sometimes. I mean, similar to the Neiman Marcus situation, right? I
yeah,
was I was blown away. I was like, "What? I go into my account and look at what
right,
I've bought."
right,
Like, are you kidding me? You know what I mean?
right.
Now, I'm not like all Neiman Marcus. Don't think that. But I've bought stuff there, almost always on clearance. But but yeah, it's like I'm a repeat customer, and you know, uh, who knows who I know, right?
Mhm,
That I'm going to tell. Of course, nobody, everybody kind of already should know at this point that a bad experience is what people talk about to everybody.
mhm,
Not a
mhm,
good one most of the time. So yeah, it's just always it's always been something that I could never wrap my head around.
yeah.
How people are not willing to lose.
Why do you think that mindset matters so much specifically in just the insurance housing world?
Well, I think so much of it is due to budget, right?
Mm,
When you look at a particular claim, um, they have a budget that kind of, there's typically an amount that's allotted toward temporary housing, and it gets eaten up by you know all kinds of different things, right? Maybe they have to stay in a hotel at first, or staying with a friend and they're paying the friend. There's a lot of things that can start eating in your budget, and then they have almost a total loss, and maybe they're going to be out 8 months or a year or whatever, but they only have a certain amount of budget, right? That once that's gone, it's gone.
Hmm.
So, they're our clients who are dealing with them directly, more so before us. They're looking out for them and their budget,
Right.
and so and so I understand that. My team understands that, and I think that a lot of times is why that is the case. Just really they're trying to make that money go as far as it can, and thinking ahead to potential extensions and things like that.
Yeah. I want to go back to something I've heard you've already talked about a little bit, but I want you to unpack a little bit more because I've heard you tell our team before this idea that just because it's not our fault doesn't mean it's not our problem. When dealing with insurance reps and people like that, what do you mean by that, and how do you like lead the team through that kind of cultural mindset?
Well, it's just I just think you have to understand that issues are going to arise, right?
Hmm.
And they may not be because of anything that we've done, right? Maybe it's uh, maybe to give you kind of a real life example. Maybe the one of our policyholders clogs the toilet in the
Hmm.
in the RV, right? Well, that's their fault. We could say, hey, you need to call a plumber and get them out there to. But listen, it's our issue because they're our client as well, and they're having a problem, right? So it wasn't our fault by any means, but it becomes our problem or our
Hmm.
issue
Hmm.
also because they're our client and we want to take care of them,
Right.
you know. And it's really it's a simple thing. Just it all goes back to good service. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Hey, we have a client with an issue. Doesn't really matter who caused it. They have an issue and it's a real issue, and it's unfortunate for them and they don't want to deal with it either, but here it is. So how can we help them fix this
Well, and there's
situation?
so many variables in this particular space, and the reps that are listening or watching this, they know it's like sometimes you're dealing with an insured, and they're we've talked about it before. They're going through trauma. They've just gone through a loss a lot of times. Maybe it's through a storm or flood or fire, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And so they're dysregulated anyway because they're all emotional about what they're going through, rightfully so. We've talked about how we have to kind of show up for them and help them guide through that, but also not all the time, and we have so many systems in place and processes, but not all the time are you getting all the correct information. So we'll show up on property with one of our units, and a lot of times we've got to improvise
Yeah.
because we've scouted the property, we've done Google Earth, we've done pictures, we've done videos, we've done everything within our power, anything we can control, and then sometimes you get there and there's just a wild card that you didn't prepare for.
For sure.
And you train the team to like, hey, this is our opportunity to flex, our opportunity to be leaders, our opportunity to keep
Innovator.
this
Yeah.
innovators. Yeah, yeah. Or
Yeah.
even to keep it off the plate of our reps. We don't want
Right.
them
Right.
getting calls when we're on site of, hey, this is not like, it's a
For
big
sure.
deal to you to try to handle all
Hmm.
that so
Hmm.
that they're not getting blown up with those calls.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're always going to try to do whatever we can to mitigate anything like that, to make sure that they're not getting a call, that the reps aren't getting a call, right? That we can, the best case scenario is that, hey, we may run into all kinds of issues, right? I mean, we've had to take chainsaws out and cut trees down and
Yep.
freaking, trim trees and dig, you know, use shovels, you
Hmm.
name it. Um, but ultimately, we would rather the reps not hear about that on the front end, right? Because that may stress them out, or add another thing to their plate. We'll handle it, and then we'll let them know on the back end, hey, just we ran into some issues, and
Right.
but we got it taken care of and all that. I think that's the preferable way to do it.
Yep. Yep. Well, and it speaks to just this idea of we really want our reps to see us not just as a vendor, but really as a partner in this. Like, it's a big deal for us, and I hope it's okay that I say this, but you talk about taking loss. Well, I know for a fact that you staff your team in ways that you wouldn't have to so that you can better serve the our clients and our reps. And for example, that is having techs on call, people that they can call to do that. But it's the reason why we do that is because we truly want to be a partner. We could, I mean, if you
Right.
wanted to, you could, have a really lean team like most companies do and just run it, it's like run it yourself and a couple people, whatever. But you choose to
Yeah.
build a team for the purpose of when our reps call or a problem come up that we can respond quickly.
No, for sure. I mean, yeah, we've talked about that before. Just
Yeah.
the amount of staff that we have compared to probably most of our competitors. Um, and that's just so we can,
Hmm.
so we can offer the very best service possible. It's, if it's a one or two or three man show, it's easy when you're busy to like, hey, we already have this on our plate. We can't really add this to our plate right now. But with us, we have enough people that we can kind of, nobody's plate is like too full
Yeah.
to the point where we can't do anything else.
Right.
But I'll say too, man, my team is very much can do and extremely hardworking, um, and really really grateful for their mental makeup and their willingness to be helpful and to go the extra mile to take care of people. And so I don't want that to be lost either, right? This is not all about me and what I'm doing and have done and all that stuff. I couldn't do any of this without the team that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, last question. I just want to kind of zoom back out more on like a philosophical, just business level. But why do you believe that this mindset will always win? No matter how crowded the competition gets, no matter how crowded the market gets, philosophically, why do you believe so deeply in this approach to doing business?
Because I think everybody still desires that. I think that it's not found nearly as often as it was. Hate to say this, but back in the day, what is back in the
Hmm.
day? I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, prior,
Right.
just where service mattered, and it wasn't, not that I think it still matters,
Hmm.
but it was just more common practice to have great service and to take care of people. Now we've just become, I think social media is certainly a culprit, so self-absorbed, and hey, and really, like, have devalued the consumer,
Mm.
so much. And that's it's so short-sighted because the consumer still holds the cards.
Hmm.
They have the money, they're paying, and you know
Well, like you said
and
too, it's not a long-term approach. You mentioned the social media. A lot of these companies, if they can just get the quick buy now, they're not really concerned about keeping a long-term customer and coming back. They just want to, you know, get that dopamine hit in the moment as you're scrolling and
yeah,
getting something, as opposed to thinking, how do I cultivate a relationship with this customer for a lifetime?
yeah, and it's crazy because there's some companies that like have a product, or products or services or whatever that could be purchased multiple times.
Hmm.
But that will never happen because they're just trying to get the impulse buy. And so yeah, hey, they may make even millions, right? But why if it just took, excuse me, a little more care
Hmm.
and service and maybe a little more overhead, why not try to be there for the long haul if you have something that people would want to keep buying? But I don't know. We have become such a short-sighted when it comes to business, man. I keep using that word, I know, but um, just hard to see the future. And for me, I don't want to be a company that just that's just here and does well for a few years. Like, I want to create something that I can pass down to my kids. Like it's continuing to grow, and we have a name for ourselves that, hey, when I'm dead and gone, that RV housing group is still going and still helping people. Because we continue to do what we tell people we're going to do, and we continue to care about people, And it's proven, right? It's proven by our actions and what we do and how we, and how we deal with our clients. And I think that I think that uh, that mindset is not so often found anymore. Not never. I mean, there's certainly, I talk to people like me, but that are like minded. But that's just so important to me, to be able to create a legacy, that continues on through generations potentially.